Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you to all the Ridgewood residents that are here and online. It's been a long time for this meeting coming, and obviously with some of the things going on, we weren't able to do these things, but we wanted to have a lot to talk about, a lot of exciting things, and thank you for being here. We have a lot of exciting to talk about and so many great things going on. First of all, I'd like to introduce a lot of the Columbia Township team. I think they're the greatest team on the planet. We're doing incredible things, and it's really a neat time to be in Columbia Township. First, I'd like to introduce our she's online, but she's not here, but our lifelong resident and longest tenured member of our team. She's been a trustee for 24 years, so she's seen everything, and she's here remotely, and it's Susan Hughes, our trustee. She's here. Hello, Susan. And next, I'd like to introduce our vice president of our trustees, our 15-year resident of Madison Place, who's our hardest working trustee and has hit the ground running since she's been here for, about a year?
A little over a year.
A little over a year. Improving communications through podcasts and getting to know everybody. He's everywhere. He's the talented and always pleasant Mr. Brian Lamar.
Everybody.
Next on our slate of public officials, while we're on the public official slate, is our chief fiscal officer that's always keeping us in line. She's always punctual and always pleasant and always under budget and ahead of schedule. It's Ridgewood's own Miss Caroline Heaton. A little louder applause.
Now we're building up.
She's the home team.
And now the most important people to the public are the real team. Our brand new administrator that runs everything with an iron fist, but is there for everybody and can solve any problem, is the ultimate boss when we actually decide to listen to her. And we call her the Velvet Steamroller. She can be sweet, she can be tough, and we occasionally need counseling, and you see it, haven't you? But the wonderful, unbelievable Ms. Melissa Taylor. And next, the person that the entire township really runs the show, and don't tell Melissa that, but this is the one that really runs the show. She's been behind the scenes for nearly 25 years and really calls all the shots and bosses us all around. Ms. Kim Gray. And next, our newest addition to this incredible team. She always makes things brighter when she's involved. She's often the first person the public's in touch with, and they all seem to actually like her, unlike the rest of us. She's helped take our events to a new level. She's helps in our administration, helps take phone calls, and any endeavor we get involved with, makes them better, greater, our events and everything else. She's the lovely and always smiling and talented Ms. Lauren Allison. If you haven't met her. And last but not least, the guy that does so many things, the guy that catches spears, he's the snow plower, leaf man, street sweeper, griller extraordinaire, and our best politician actually, the everlasting, and do I have to even say his name, but Mr. John Cervisi. And now on to business. If we need to come back, we will. If we don't answer some of these questions, we're going to keep moving. But if we have to answer questions, if there's a topic we missed, we will come back. This is meant to be informal, so polite interruptions are welcome. If you got a question and say, hold on, I didn't understand something, or you didn't clarify something, both this group of people and you guys interrupt me. So interruptions are welcome as long as they're polite. Okay. All right, and that means if I miss something or ramble, somebody tug onto my shirt or whatever, or jacket or whatever, and all right, let's go. Okay, first thing we're going to do, and golly, you guys are so far away, I'm actually going to move this up closer to you if you don't mind. This is very informal, so this was not meant to be, and now I can't see this.
Take a moment.
All right, thank you. Okay, well, just before I get into the ordinary course of business, we kind of broke down how our taxes kind of break out. And we looked and said, we're proud after all the great fiscal responsibility and everything else through this group of people and some of our predecessors, if I'm saying it correct, that only 11.9% of the taxes actually come from the residents' property taxes. So we're proud of that. Took a lot of hard work, a lot of things. So just want to let everybody understand that. And probably the biggest stat that I'm even proud of is that through some creative, and Melissa, you had a terminology from the medical marijuana and the Gen Z, you called it what, income from others or just
OPM, other people's money.
other people's money and other ways of doing
And
it.
yours.
About 33% of the money we actually bring in from the township comes from our Gen Z and medical marijuana, which has created solutions to how to bring in more income that gives us the ability to do so many things we're going to talk about tonight. Do you all, I don't mean much, I guess I should just say refresher. Do most of the people, I don't want to repeat myself, but Gen Z, does everybody know what that is or not really? You wouldn't mind me explaining? Our Gen Z was put into place probably 7-8 years ago. We basically, you could go enact an earnings tax on the businesses, not the residents. Because a lot of the people that worked in the businesses were using township resources, but not necessarily taxed. So we imposed an earnings tax on the residents, which is about 1%, which means the Home Depot, you go down the Worcester Pike corridor, be like Kroger's and Lowe's over here on the Ridge corridor. And so you impose a 1% earnings tax, and that brought in a new source of revenues of about $1 million a year to the township. And it doesn't impact the residents at all, and it was a good thing for us to do. The impetus of doing that was both motivation, because my day job, I'm a commercial real estate developer. I saw what Sycamore Township did it because they had a lot of people using all their resources, and they realized that the government funding slowing down these townships, we need to find other sources of revenue. So the impetus was listening to what Sycamore Township did, combined with the fact that over on the Worcester Pike corridor, Marymount was threatening to annex some properties, Newtown was threatening to annex like 50 West and some properties. So we thought, let's go try to share the revenues, do whatever. And so we put in a Gen Z, and that now brings in $1 million, about $1 million a year in new revenues, new resources to the township. It gives us so many abilities to do things. The next part is the medical marijuana. That was probably 3 years ago. Medical marijuana was coming into fruition. I was in Florida, and somebody I knew through a friend called me and said, hey, look, we're looking to put a medical marijuana clinic in. We have to have a location. Similar like FC Cincinnati, you have to have a location before you can go bid to the state to even get a license. So they reached out to me, said, I got your number, and I was in Naples at a family wedding, and said, hey, we've all smoked marijuana in college and stuff. I said, well, I actually haven't, but I'm open-minded. So we said, all right, and we were ready to declare a moratorium on marijuana because of the fact that a lot of the other communities were doing it. Thinking marijuana, don't know we want as a crime, what are we going to have, we're not sure. And so I said, I'm open-minded, I'll take the meeting. They came to us, and I kind of thought, there's not a new building where Laxland was. There's not a new building, well, there is now with the McDonald's, but not a new building, no new real estate taxes, no real new earnings taxes, because no real employees. So I thought, what's in it for us? So we created a scenario where we shared 2% of their gross revenues to the township and declared 2 sites for medical marijuana. We had 2 of how many?
Only 3 awarded by the Board of Pharmacy in Hamilton County.
So we had 2 or 3 thinking, all right, if we at least can share the revenues, and the prediction was they might do $50 million a year when they get stabilized. We're not sure where they're going to go. We thought that could be a real source of revenues. You get 2, it could be $1 million and $1 million. We're not sure if 2 of them frank each other, but it could be $1 million. But our first check that came in through, through their first year with COVID and everything else was how much about, Caroline? 500, about $500,000 a year that now medical marijuana. So we got $1.5 million coming from gen income, medical marijuana income that gives us so many abilities to do what we're doing tonight. So with that said, I'm going to take the first part of our segment, which is to talk about how great things are financially, philosophically, emotionally in Columbia Township, and I'm going to let Melissa and Caroline talk a little bit about that. So you guys go.
Sorry, I'm not used to
You're
this.
good.
I'm not as smooth as David. David touched on a few of the ways that this board has been very creatively but carefully coming up with ways to generate new revenue that takes that cost off of the taxpayers or the residents. And for a decade now, they've been doing such a great job that we're in such a great fiscal position. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about where we stack up in the rest of the state. I've met other fiscal officers who are, cutting their funds and providing fewer services, and we're doing just the opposite. We're providing more services and cutting your taxes. So it's kind of remarkable, really. I mean, it really is, and that's just kind of the overview. We have enough money in our funds to pay our bills. That's really all we can ask for. And this board has been so responsible and has just been talking about when we're in a position to do something. And now we're in such a great position. There's all these exciting things that they have to tell you about. And Melissa can give you a much better nuts and bolts picture of what's going on. But compared to other townships around the state, we are in such a great position, and it's really remarkable.
Thank you.
So, you may have received your new edition, the fall edition of The Voice in your...
Just today.
Yes. The theme of this edition is Better Than Ever, because we are at Columbia Township better than ever in so many different ways. And we go through that in the new kind of a magazine style of The Voice. Columbia Township specifically, Caroline and I and Kim Gray, who we introduced in the back, who manages all our accounting and other functions, financial functions. We spend every day, every week together on a $5+ million budget. And we are, as Caroline said, financially stronger than the township has ever been, thanks to the trustees in the past 10 years putting together the tools, two of which that David pointed out. Townships by statute are very limited creatures. Many people think that townships are the same as cities or villages, and we are not. We do not have the same level of powers as cities or villages, collectively known as municipalities. Our responsibilities by statute are limited to public safety services, roads, and any other special type programs. So what we wanted to share with you in this section before we move on to the next section is to kind of set the stage for this evening, is that most townships, because they do not have a business space, and if they do have a business space, they have not acted necessarily, except for Sycamore, which David mentioned, which was our inspiration, to put together a joint economic development district, are not in the position where we are today. So we have heard, especially over the last year or so, especially with the state's required property reappraisals and updates, that people are feeling the pinch of higher taxes. What we want to go on the record with tonight is that those are not coming from Columbia Township. As a Columbia Township resident, you have up to 19 taxing agencies in your pocket through your home. So on your bill, even though it doesn't show online, the county shortcuts and puts some tax agencies under the Columbia Township piece of the pie for convenience for their website, but we actually don't control the taxes through all of those entities. So these are the takeaway numbers, 19 taxing entities that you have as a property owner. I'm a former resident of Columbia Township. I'm now a resident of an adjacent township, so I've experienced this personally as well. Only 3 are Columbia Township special revenue funds. Police, EMS, roads and bridges, and then the waste district. And of those 3, only one of them is brought before the voters every 3 years, which is the waste and recycling district, which we're going to talk about tonight, because that's where we're going to take, as David says, we're going to turn medical marijuana into gold and use it to do a tax cut. So the other 2 levies have been on the books for so long, we've not brought them back to the voters, they're continuing, that some of them date back to 1993, the last time the voters here, you, passed them. So we receive funds based on the value of the property at the time the levies were voted. So we are functioning as a township off some levies that are 10, 20, going on 30 years old values. Thus, the importance of bringing in my favorite OPM, right? Okay, so of the levies, we have not, if you support us when we talk about in the section on the waste and recycling levy, if you show up on November 2nd and vote to continue that program, at the same time cut the taxes, we are going to roll your taxes back on that program to where they were in 2012. So when we start 2022, in just a few months, I can't believe, right, falls next week, or this week, first day of fall, later this week or something, yeah. So in a few months, right after Christmas, when we start 2022 in January, if we have successfully passed the waste levy with a tax cut, the last time a levy was increased by Columbia Township's hand will have been in 2012, because we'll roll that back. So we are not the other 16 agencies. We're not saying, that's not taking this position. That's the schools, mental health, senior services, those parks, all very important. We're not taking a position on there. We're only telling you, your Columbia Township special revenue taxes are not going up. They're going down.
I mean, if you go look at it, the biggest thing you hear inevitably campaign season is taxes, taxes, taxes. And so we decided that how do we go take some benefits of the Gen Z money and the medical marijuana money and give something back, even though the uncertainty of the medical marijuana would be, we're not sure, it's brand new. It's a brand new revenue source. We're not sure if there's going to be more clinics coming in, which means the revenues could go down. We're not sure with COVID if more people are smoking pot or doing whatever they do with it. We got recreational marijuana that may be coming in, so we're hoping it's going to continue to trend up, but we're still not sure. But I'm going to segue into our next topic, which is Brian Lamar, our newest trustee, came in and thought, what can we do for the public? What can we do to go share something rather than just sit there and say, guys, okay, we got gen money coming, we got medical marijuana money coming. What can we do to really give something back to go show everybody an introduction? And we hope to continue more of that and actually lowering taxes, which is unheard of. We had a couple of podcasts recently with the Denise Treehouse, who was a former president of the Hamilton County Commissioners, and Bridget Kelly, and it's unheard of what we're trying to do, which is to go actually lower taxes and do some economic development stimulus into the residential communities through the grants we're going to talk about. But it's unheard of, it's exciting, we're proud of it, and with that we're going to segue and let Melissa and Brian, Brian kind of mentioned to me, hey David, should we not try to lower taxes? Well, I'm not sure whether medical marijuana is going up or down, don't know. I said, if you can get Melissa comfortable with it, I'll get behind what you do. So with that, I'm going to hand off to Brian Lamar to talk a little about that. And John Service, I want you to come up here too, because this relates to the most popular service we give to the community, which John has next. So Brian, or John, he needs no introduction, so right there in the middle.
Do you want to move this for the board?
Yes, I'm Brian Lamar, by the way. I live in Madison Place, kind of in the center of the township. I've heard about that neighborhood before. Yeah, I'm really excited about this. If you vote yes on November 2nd, taxes will be lowered by 32% for the waste and recycling levy. I have a lot of people in my neighborhood that this is important to them. They're on fixed income, senior citizens, retirees. We have a lot of like generational people in Madison Place, and so I think it's really important. Every homeowner will receive this tax. And the most important part of why John's here is because services won't be cut at all. The allocation, the budget line for that waste and recycling is exactly the same. Like David and Melissa have talked about, the fiscal responsibility, we have a lot of money in the bank. You'll hear another way we're going to utilize some of this new money we're getting from medical marijuana and other places. including TIF. We can talk about that later as well. But one of the places I'm really passionate about is cutting taxes for people. So if this passes, like everybody said, we've never been able to afford it before. That's the main reason. Creative thinking of people before me, creating new sources of revenue, other people's money is really important. It'll cut millage if you're in the millage. I'm not, but it's 5.1 mils to 3.5 mils. That's pretty big.
And real quick, Melissa, that's how many years ago's taxes?
2012.
2012.
Probably 10 years
So
back.
roll the taxes back to the 2012 rates.
I think that's all I really wanted to say. I really hit all my other points, but it's also our most popular service. When I walk the streets and I walk the hills of Ridgewood, people talk about his team so much, about how responsive they are. I see head shaking. I saw a Facebook post not too long ago, a tree falling. I think within an hour or two they had cleared the road. So I'll let John talk about the Ridgewood.
And in Columbia, excuse me, Williams Meadow, same thing, we're on the east side of it. We get more compliments of him, people adore, and a lot of things, so you gotta get up and say something. We never get to see you. Get up and take the floor. Go ahead, John.
Thank you.
Hey, John, do you want to remind people what all the services are under the waste and recycling?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do.
Right.
Our waste levy covers the most popular services that all our residents see. It's the leaf pickup, the brush pickup, trash pickup. It even helps with some of the purchasing of our equipment for those services, our wood chipper, leaf machine, and everybody in here and in the township, those services of leaf pickup and wood chipping, those are our most popular. We've also recently instituted giving that stuff back to the residents, giving back the wood chips and the leaf compost. So twice a year, we now do deliveries to your home of leaf compost or wood chips. You call in, we put you on the list. My guys will go out and will deliver it to your house, put it in your driveway, as much of it as you want, up to 3 yards of each. The wood chips and the leaf compost, free of charge. If you go look on Evan's website, it's $50-something for a yard of leaf compost. We'll give you up to 3 free, and we'll deliver free. All you gotta do is call.
That's fine.
That service has gone from about 8 people a year. Our last trip through was like 27 residents requested that service. And that was just one time. We had probably close to that the second trip through. So it's a service that's picking up in popularity. Getting back to leaf pickup, my guys walk the curbs, and I don't know if you've seen us doing it. You might be at work, but each guy carries a 28-pound backpack blower on his back, and we walk an average of 30 miles one trip through the township. Those guys walk at least 30 miles. We do that 7 times a year. So do the math, it's 210 miles that these guys are walking with backpack blowers on. And wood chipping, same way, we're out after storms. Typically, it's the second and fourth Mondays of the month that we come out and we'll chip curbside. There's other townships that you get a $50 fee if you call them up and you want a wood chip at your curb. It's $50. They charge you to come. We do it free every second and fourth Monday. If there's a storm, we'll come out and do storm cleanup immediately following a storm. We're also out doing the catch basins after a storm, cleaning the lids off, making sure none of the catch basins are clogged up. We do all this with just myself and 3 guys. We don't have a huge crew. That's the same crew that does your snow removal, does your leaf pickup, your wood chipping, your road repair, everything else. It's me and 3 guys that do all that maintenance. They stay busy, to say the least. But the waste levy is what funds all this stuff. These services are, like I said, loved by everybody in the township. Probably the biggest service that we do for township residents, and it all comes out of the waste levy. So I would urge you to support the waste levy, especially since it's a reduction. I don't know that we could do it without the levy. So, food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's amazing because you also had the team that went out for what we call the rodeo, the snowplow.
Snowplow rodeo.
And the idea of these guys going through, cars are parked in streets and there's narrow streets and everything else. They have to dodge and weave and whatever. And I don't know how Ridgewood is, but in Williams Meadow, we have our roads plowed way before everybody. It is amazing what these guys do, and we get more compliments on these guys, and Lauren, we get a lot of compliments on her since she's new, but we get a lot of compliments on John and his team.
I will say, and this actually was a phone call that I received out of Ridgewood, probably 5 years ago, that the lady was upset that we made her late to work because our roads were clean and she thought every other street looked like hers, so she didn't allow herself enough time to get to work. That was an actual phone call.
Well, it reminds you of going through the Chick-fil-A drive-thru and you get your food in like a minute, you think, did they guess what I wanted? And they guessed it was gonna snow, so these guys do magical things. So, and I'm gonna say this, since you got audience participants, let's give it up for John. They don't get to hear that often. That's why it's exciting. I'm glad you're up here in front.
Hey, David, I want to mention for the
You go.
green people in the audience, I'm sure there's more than a few of us.
These are called
So,
polite interruptions, by the way. Go ahead.
The other side of the waste and recycling district is the recycling part of it. And studies show that there's more participation in recycling when you don't have to add that as a cost to your account. You pay for your waste, but you don't know that you're going to pay for recycling. Because we bundle all 1,600 households and bid them out, we get a discounted rate. You don't have to manage your account. We manage it with Rumpke on your behalf. So our recycling rate is 25%, which is among the highest level of recycling of all townships in Hamilton County. So 1/4 of everything that you throw out is going back into a stream that can be used down the road for someone else. And so that is really remarkable. And as John mentioned, we collect yard debris, storm debris, and we chip it and we let it ferment and become compost and then return it. So there's a recycling effort in that as well. So it's really a great program. It's really affordable already and it's about to get really affordable.
With that, we move on, and you can get out of here now. Thank you. All right. With that, we move on to the next thing is the Madison Place Firehouse. And Lauren, can we get you up here to talk about the Madison Place? We're going to bring in Lauren here. We'll explain why in a minute. The Madison Place Firehouse is on Murray Avenue, and I realize how fragmented the township is, but believe it or not, from Ridgewood, it's only a little less than 15 minutes. And I think if you guys do one of these hard hat tours, when we get to do them, and you go walk through there, your mind will percolate that this could be a place to have community events, graduation parties, different things that I think, you know, it adds value to the community. But for years, we owned the Madison Place Firehouse. You get people that want to go store their boats there or do boat stores there. And I go down and look at Wooster Pike and Fairfax where you have landscapers storing, you know, mulch piles. That's not what we want. If we could have a really good buyer to build a new residential community or anything, we would have done it. We really didn't have any, we had a lot of interest, but not anybody really fascinating. Then we had a restaurateur that wanted to do it, a really high-end restaurateur, but not sure whether or not it would perform there, and we were going to have to invest so much there. And we kind of thought, when Melissa came on board, do we keep it? Then Melissa came in with her economic development background, came up with all these different grants and things to restore historic firehouse, keep it in the community, keep it as part of the township, give it back to the community. We came up with, Melissa, how much in grants do we have in the firehouse? Roughly?
Just on the firehouse project, we have almost 600,000.
About $600,000, a bit of a coupon to go keep it to ourselves. We were already throwing community events down there in Madison Place, etc. So we thought, what if we just kept it and redid it, gave it back to the community for everybody, through community events, brought it as a community event center. So that's what we decided to do. We thought it'd be a good boost for the economic development values in both Madison Place and really throughout the township. I live in Williams Meadow, but I think they'll use it. I'm inviting the Ridgewood people that are a little bit more disjointed over on the west side of the township to come look at it. And I think when you see it, you're going to go, wow, this is really cool. It was really inspired a bit by when we went and toured a Stir in Montgomery. We went and saw what they did, and that's in Montgomery, unrelated to our township. We thought there's a lot of cool things you could do there. So we think it's great, and I brought Allison up here or Lauren up here. I was calling Allison, Lauren Allison. I brought Lauren up here because she's going to be the one that's going to be the liaison, has helped with some of the community events have gone from good to great with her spirit, her inspiration, her background, her spunk, her energy. Obviously, Melissa, her grants, and Brian, you're going to help talk about this too. This Firehouse renewal is really exciting. And I'll leave that, who do I leave this up to? Melissa, why don't you get started? Or Brian? You go, Brian.
I timed it. I went from the Firehouse here. It took me 15 minutes. So I would encourage you all. How many people have been near there or seen it? A few. Okay, cool. I would encourage you all to go look at it, and we'll have coffee. I'll walk you around. I'll show you the new bike trail. It's near it. But that's part of this. Is I live in Madison Place. I'm real passionate about it, and you can talk to the residents there. They're very passionate about this building. As I mentioned earlier, there's generations of people that live there, and they use this when they're little. This was a volunteer fire department not that long ago, and there were community events there. And if you read, you'll see a lot of the quotes from residents that we got in here, and people love it. And I'm so happy that before me, the trustees and the administrators decided to maintain this asset. It's the only piece of property that the Columbia Township owns. It's actually in Columbia Township. They've had opportunities to get rid of it. They've held on to it, and I'm going to show you a picture of what it should look like. This is what it'll look like. You'll see this, but it's going to be beautiful. It overlooks Marymount. It's right along a activity trail. It's going to be beautiful.
That's our latest news.
This is what it will kind of look like. This isn't the final rendering, but it's going to be beautiful, used for any kind of community event. So I don't know how active your community is. We have lots of parties and street stuff and get-togethers. I would encourage you to call Allison up here soon. We're open sometime next year.
You mean Lauren?
Oh my gosh, you got me doing it. I know where it is.
I do it all the time.
Call Lauren, and I already have 2 people that are trying to get on board using it. But we'll have fundraisers there. We'll have wedding parties. We'll have birthday parties. All the stuff that we missed out on in the past year and a half because of COVID, we're going to bring here. It'll be a space. It's 10,000 square feet, by the way. This is not a small little firehouse. From the picture from the outside, it looks like a small firehouse. It's going to be giant. It'll be used for the community. It's going to be really nice. Almost all grant money and TIF money. You can talk about the TIF money part of this. That's more her realm. But we plan to have like events on the weekends, like happy hours, and bring the community together. Kind of a meeting spot for people that live not just there, but you all as well. People living in Columbia Township, this is your asset just as much as it is in Madison Place. So please come, have a drink when this is built. Come tour it when you can. Look at it now, and you'll see how much it improves in the next few months. Because it wasn't used for about a decade, is that right? Yeah. So it was in kind of bad shape.
I tell you, Brian, you know what I wouldn't mind having doing, Brian? Is having Lauren talk about the events we do in Madison Place that we consider the whole community. Tell us a little about the Jimmy Buffett event.
Yeah, so that was my first event that I did with the township, so it was a little bit nerve-wracking for me, but everything went so smooth. We had a great turnout. It was great weather, couldn't ask for anything better. But it just gives a good future view of all the fun and community gatherings that we can have. So I'm very excited to be a part of it, and I'm ready to
and we'll do more events like that. We had a Jimmy Buffett tribute band. We shut down the streets. We had.
You were residents.
What's that?
Yeah, we were residents. Yeah.
You went to it? And we plan to do more of those things.
That was rush hour traffic.
I was going to say, I get there at 10, so
It's
you
4:30.
might drive slower.
So I think if you do one of these hard hat events, you're again just no different than when I visited Stir up in Montgomery. You thought this is really cool. There's a lot of things you could do. So I think it will bring you in, and when you guys continue to bring this community together, everybody's closer than you think. I think everybody's going to find it exciting. And the community events, I highly recommend. Yeah, they're a lot of fun, especially with Lauren and her team and her volunteers, Melissa and all the spirit they put into it, and Kim and the gang, it's dynamite. We move on to the next topic, or do you?
Well,
you got
I
more
want
to
to
say?
add,
When's
is
it
it
available?
available? Sorry, it's a good
You know what? That's a very good
It's gonna
question.
be what?
When is it available?
Oh, I would say, I've been told January, February, my guess is March, April, right?
And the line keeps shifting because of
COVID.
delivery by the method.
Yeah.
Here's why. The venue will be the new Township Hall and Township Administration. So we're going to actually move Columbia Township Administration Town Hall into Columbia Township, out of Ladera for the first time in history that I'm aware of. And the important piece that I don't want to miss tonight for the venue is that in giving it back to the community, reopening it to the community, we want it to be available to the nonprofits, faith-based, non-faith-based, and other community organizations that you're part of, educational or otherwise, and you'll be able to use the facility. And we did a study before we finalized the plans for the Firehouse and asked a significant number of nonprofits, what would you use it for? Would you use it? What space are you using currently? What works for you and what doesn't work for you? And did we get an earful about nonprofits need to play a really much classier place to fundraise and to hold events, that their backlogs trying to get other places booked and other places are run down, and they want to do classier events to bring more money into the organizations. So we, because of our success with grant writing, we are going to have a full professional kitchen, a chef's kitchen in this venue, so that you can bring in a caterer, or you can bring in your volunteers from your organization and cook the lasagnas, cook the spaghetti, cook the pancakes. And then, so there's a full professional kitchen, both a closed section for caterers and an open section for eating and hanging out. And then we have a full bar, I think 15 or 16 seat bar, because a lot of people rely on alcohol sales or other drink sales or part of the fundraising. That's up to your organization, not our decision. And then there are going to be experience rooms in the Firehouse where people who have worked there or went to events there when they were growing up, who are sharing memories with us, that you would be able to walk through different experience rooms. We're going to have, if any of you have ever been to Blink, downtown Cincinnati, there's a light show that shines images on Fountain Square. We're going to have that in one of the experience rooms where different images will rotate from the history of the fire department. And we're working with someone who is really passionate about that. And then we are inviting people to submit photographs, memorabilia, and before the Firehouse opens, we're going to do recordings. I don't know if many of you are familiar with NPR StoryCorps, but people come in and just take a couple of minutes and talk about something that really speaks to their heart. And it's recorded for history, and it's in the National Archives in Washington, D.C. Well, we're going to archive those memories for the Firehouse, and you also can play them when you walk into an experience room, that you're going to be able to play those audio recordings. And so we're really looking to have that culture piece of it, as well as a really tricked out high-end venue that you can use for your family, you can use for sporting events, you can use for nonprofits, Ridgewood Civic Association events, or anything like that. And we're going to work with the community to help prioritize use of the space.
And you get married there, can't you?
Me?
No, I mean, that's not wrong. You can do whatever you want.
Yes, marriages.
Okay, and next we'll move on to the next topic, which is the Ridge Fire District. And as we've always said, that in every one of our meetings, every one of our statements, but both with the fiscal responsibility, et cetera, that we always plan to make sure that the Ridge Fire District, which Ridgewood is a part of, has quality fire from the best, vendors, et cetera, to provide fire for Ridgewood and the Ridge Fire District. Recently, we have realized that the geographic partners, first of all, to run a fire department is labor intensive, cost intensive, it's so cost prohibitive, it's so expensive, people complain, not people, but people in general worry about their tax bills and school levies and everything else. So it's the most labor intensive, hardest part. Everybody needs fire and EMS services, but they're expensive and hard to fund and hard to keep these local fire departments. If it was up to me, I wish they would be countywide, which would be one every 4 or 5 miles or however many miles somebody would deem necessary, and they would just be plopped down there. But unfortunately, you have to kind of go deal with what you have. And we always will plan to have great fire and EMS. Recently, the Gulf Manor merger, or the Gulf Manager with the Little Miami Fire Department merger, we realized probably wasn't the greatest synergy, both from logistics and other things. So we kind of looked and thought maybe one of us should go back to where we were, which is we kind of encouraged Gulf Manor to go back to where they were originally, and we would encourage them to go find other partners, as we have to struggle to do the same thing over in the Fairfax, Little Miami part of it, to go try to get Marymount. Hopefully they would find a local partner, and we would continue to contract, in this case, with Gulf Manor through the Ridge Fire District, which includes Ridgewood. Go find other partners, because I kind of wanted to figure out how to go tell this story, and it's so complex in terms of how to explain to the people what goes on with fire and why it's so hard. And Melissa and I debated this back and forth to the point we might be needing some counseling. And I guess I'm going to go just talk about the anatomy, what it takes to run a fire department, the cost involved, and why this is so hard to do. But the plan is that Gulf Manor would go back to where they were. Fairfax, Little Miami would go back to where they were. We would continue to contract with Gulf Manor for the Ridge Fire District, and we'd give them whatever within reason they needed, the current rate, and maybe even up it if that's what it took to have it survive. And I know they're struggling to find partners, and then there's been some question of whether they'll even be able to survive, which is understandable. It's not unique to them. So if they don't survive that, then the question is, do we have other alternatives? And we do, and as well as they do. So everybody struggled with the same stuff. And with that, I was going to first start down and break down and show what it takes to maybe start a fire department, just the anatomy of it, so you understand why it's so hard. We have these charts here, and we have the marker here.
Right here.
Okay.
Any color we want.
I'm going to put this up front.
I want to share before we go any further.
You
Part
go.
of our arms wrestling with David and I is the fire district originally was, Little Miami Fire District originally was Columbia Township in Fairhouse for decades. And then Gulf Manor joined, and as part of the discussion to reorganize the fire district, as David described, there are 6 members on the district board, 2 from each of the communities. Brian, Lamar, and I represent Columbia Township as 2 members on the board, and then I represent Columbia Township through the mediation process, which is managed by the Supreme Court of the state of Ohio. In their mediation, it's to depoliticize and close the proceedings. And so Gulf Manor, we have Gulf Manor Council Member Roger Van Horn here today with us. So Gulf Manor representatives, Fairfax representatives, and Columbia Township representatives, including me, have been for the last 18, 19, 20 months very close quarters in terms of talking about how do we assure that our district can sustain itself into the future, and that our hope is that we are able to contract with Gulf Manor, they reconstitute their fire department or whatever path that they choose to take. So, and Roger and I also serve on the board together, which is a separate function. So we're in the fire department mediation to get a sustainable outcome representing each member community, and then Roger and I and others on the board, Brian, share the responsibilities of the fire board, which is oversight of the chief and their day-to-day operations of the board. And Gulf Manor and Fairfax really a lot of kudos for great ideas and a lot of great discussion, and a really professional group the last couple of years that we've been all working together. And there are certain things tonight that we cannot
they're restricted from getting into too much detail because we would potentially compromise. We all personally had to sign confidentiality agreements, so we are not, it's not just the townships or the villages, we are personally liable. So, because they do not want the process politicized, I think you're going to.
I think that's a cue for Dave to be careful
No,
what you
yeah,
say. Okay?
but-
that said, I want to explain the general anatomy of what a fire department looks like and why it's so complex. First of all, you need fire EMS personnel, that equals firefighters. You need firefighters in general to equip a fire department with 3 shifts, 8 men, 8 men, and 8 men. So, excuse me, 4 men, 4 men, and 4 men. Excuse me, 4 men per shift. You have 3 shifts. So 3 8-hour shifts. And Mike Lemon, who is our former administrator, who has gone and done, all kinds of, accounting and studies and all this, the estimation, if you had to hire a full-time firefighter, union or what have you, with benefits and everything else, would cost a little over $100,000 a year with salary and benefits of full-time firefighter. A lot of times these departments have a hybrid of full-time, partially, full-time, and then they have part-time, which means they basically borrow men from other departments that are off, and they put them in shifts, which they don't have to pay legacy costs, they don't have to pay insurance costs. So I took the over $100,000, and then you go look and go, you might get guys for $30 an hour, $25 an hour, whatever, and thought, okay, let's just for the sake of this discussion say, we got 4 men a shift, 3 shifts. So that's 24, excuse me, 4, 4, and 4, that's $400,000, $400,000, 4, that's $1.2 million in personnel for firefighters, $1.2 million. Now again, we could sit there and debate, all right, we got a lot of part-timers, maybe that's less, I'm just throwing numbers up on a board. Okay, then you have a fire chief. Your fire chief, I'm gonna just say for legacy costs, et cetera, is about $150,000 a year, just for the sake of this discussion. You have facility costs, these are often debated. Over in Fairfax, we have a brand new facility, expensive, but it'll last for 30 years. In Marymount or in Gulf Manor, they have older facilities that they not claim, but we would argue cost nothing, but they do cost something because either A, they're going to be replaced, the roof's going to crash, firefighters are going to need replacement or whatever. So I just threw in an arbitrary number thinking, let's throw in $100,000 a year. That's for utilities, maintenance, repairs, etc. Let's throw in $100,000 a year. This is all going to come together so you at least understand what we're dealing with. You got fire trucks and ambulances. They combine these, they want them to combine them with fire trucks. A fire truck costs about $1 million. Lasts about 20 years. I don't care if it's new or it's old. Doesn't matter to me. It costs you about $50,000 a year. Whether it's like having a car lease. Whether it's your first year, doesn't matter. Everybody debates it. So that's about $50,000 a year. $50,000 a year. Then you have ambulances. You usually probably need 2. I'm going to say they cost $400,000 each, and they last about 10 years. You need 2 of them. Last about 10 years. That's 40 times 2. It's $80,000 a year. You probably need ambulances. And again, you can debate: do you need 1? Do you need 2? I'm just throwing this number down. You got miscellaneous vehicles and equipment. You got the fire guys that have explorers, the trucks with the sirens or whatever that they kind of follow. You have that. You got equipment. You got apparatus. I'm just going to throw out an arbitrary number of $50,000 a year for that, just for the sake of discussion. Then you got operational costs. I'm talking about training, miscellaneous day-to-day expenses, whatever, and I'll just throw another 50 there. Okay? And my handwriting's terrible, but the whole idea is to say, okay, you got $1.2 million, $1.350 million, $1.450 million, $1.580 $1.680. Now, I'm not saying that we can't vet let's call it $1.7 million. I'm not saying you can't run it for less than that. If you've got a facility that's paid for, I get it, but you still have utility costs, maintenance costs, grass cutting, etc. If you've got, the fire trucks, because we go through this with every department, people aren't budgeting to replace equipment. They say, well, I got a brand new fire truck. Well, it's 15 years, you're going to need $1 million expense. This to me is the anatomy of it. Certainly you get personnel chief, you get a few part-timers, maybe, and you need an assistant chief. Maybe that's higher, maybe that's lower. But that is not far off if I was starting this and saying of what it could cost to run a fire department. So you got $1.7 million to go run. Now, it doesn't mean you can't run it for $1.3 million. It doesn't mean in the case of like the Fairfax Fire Department, you ran a facility with debt, it doesn't cost you closer to $1.9 million. But all I'm getting at, that's the sheet of music to do. Go ahead, if you guys need to interrupt me if I said something wrong. So that's it. So we look at the Gulf Manor situation where we came and got involved, and we had the same issue in Fairfax. The Fairfax part of it, the little mine. So we looked at Gulf Manor, we got involved. Their taxes for their fire are about just under $550,000 a year. 550 to crack this $1.7 million nut. So we got, we're $1,150,000 short. The Ridge Fire District contract is about $425,000. So that gets us under $1 million. We're 800 short. Yet Amberley Village did contracted with the Gulf Manor Station for about $75,000 a year. When we originally joined, we had hoped and were led to believe and believed and had every reason to believe that Amberley Village would join. So if you look at the model where, let's take Gulf Manor kicks in $550, and if they boost that up to $700, and if we came in and joined the fire district through the Ridge and Highland, or the Ridge and Highland district, and maybe that went up from $450 to $600, and if Amberley joined, you've got a fire department. But when Amberley decided not to be a part of it and went elsewhere, which is not what we expected, this was a problem. So the question is, all right, why don't we just go back to where we were? We'll contract with you where you began. We'll contract with with Gulf Manor as we did before. And then the question is, can they sustain? Well, obviously they're going to have to get another partner. And I know they continue to seek partners. And we hope they get a partner. And if we have to go give them a little more money to go do it, to keep the Ridge Fire District with Gulf Manor, we fully intended to do it. We gave them 2 years to do it, and they're struggling to do it, which is not unique to them. It's consistent with what everybody's going through, and we're doing the same thing over on the other side of the district. And with Mike Lemon being involved as a consultant, we have more numbers, more data, more intelligence than we've ever had. So we now better understand that the best partners are local, geographically located partners, and that's where we're at. So I know Gulf Manor has struggled to find a partner. I know there's been discussions that they may end up contracting with Deer Park Silverton, and we have the same opportunity to do it. So that's kind of where we're at. And with that, I'm going to field questions if everybody wants to hear this. Does this make sense to everybody where we're at?
When do we have to make a decision or the next step?
I would say decisions, we have to first find out if it's official that Gulf Manor is going to vacate the district and or not be able to sustain their fire department. Then that will leave us no choice but to go to a secondary vendor. That said, I don't want to apologize for a secondary vendor. It is a very well-respected operation with a very well-respected chief, a very well-respected I want to say operation. It's closer to, on a run basis, virtually most of the Ridge Fire District except for Ridgewood. So if you look at the run basis historically, I could get into the data, but I'm only looking to field questions. If you look at Ridge Fire District as a whole, the response time from Deer Park Silverton historically, based on the data they have, is actually closer to many parts of the Ridge Fire District, but not Ridgewood. Ridgewood's really close to the Gulf Manor Station. And we want to go contract with Gulf Manor. We know everybody's comfortable with Gulf Manor. We've made that clear that we'd like to contract with them. And we've heard the limited amount of people that come here that there's a comfort level with them. But if they no longer financially exist, we have got to go consider other options. And it's all been under the eye that we cannot go be in the business of subsidizing fire departments. That this rocket ship is not going to the moon. And I know that you're going to have other people that are going to walk in and say, it's not $1.7 million, you're crazy. I'm not crazy, and I'm not saying $1.7 million is right. But if it's me, that's the number I'm looking at. And I realize that could get slashed. We don't need an assistant fire chief. We got this. We got our fire engine paid for, and I'm looking, trust me guys, you got a fire engine that's $1 million, it's going to cost you $50,000 a year. I'm tired of hearing everybody tell me it's gonna cost nothing. I'm tired of hearing people saying, we got new fires, you got an old one, it's gonna cost you $1 million, it's gonna cost me nothing. It's gonna cost 50 grand a year to own a fire engine, period. That's the way it is, and that doesn't include a backup engine, that doesn't include a lot of stuff. I'm just saying this is just back of the napkin map of where it's at and why we have made the decision that this relationship needs to get solved by more local people. Local partners need to exist within local market. Anybody start fielding questions, this is what I like. Go ahead.
So you said there's some kind of pre-existing trust with Gulf Manor Fire
I'm sorry,
Department.
what's
You
that?
said there's like a pre-existing trust with Gulf Manor Fire Department. What is that based on? Just that a lengthy history with them, or because if you have a failing fire department with failing funds, their staff aren't getting the right training, their equipment is not getting updated, and that is an immediate safety risk to those of us who live in the area of a failing fire department. That doesn't build my trust in that department at all.
Well, I don't want to editorialize on that part of it. It's geographically close. It's an entity everybody's familiar with, and you deal with that everywhere. We're dealing with it on the other side of the community where people are comfortable with their local group of people that they're used to the extent that people are used to. And by the way, there's only about, to put this in perspective, there's about 2 runs a month that happen historically in Ridgewood. So talking to Ridgewood residents, there's about 2 runs a month, and that could be anywhere from a false alarm, getting a cat out of the tree, to a heart attack. So it runs the gamut. So we take it all seriously.
Low run volumes for a fire department, though, creating less trained, less capable department.
Again, and again, the whole goal and objective of all sides of the Little Miami and issues I'm dealing with on both sides of here are that we need centrally located, and Melissa, you and I chatted before, and wish we had a countywide fire department that was within 5 or 4 miles or whatever. The fire chief would tell me, saying, you need one every 5 miles, and they're geographically located, and they're well-financed, and everybody can pay the same rate. That's the way it should be. Unfortunately, it's not. And I know there was some discussion, and I know there's been a letter that's gone out in Ridgewood that's, a bit of nonsense, but that said, there was talk about if we joined the Ridge Fire District, that would have solved the problem. The reason why we didn't join the Ridge Fire District is because if that would have solved the problem of keeping Gulf Manor alive, if we cost us extra $150,000 to keep Gulf Manor alive, sign me up. I mean, sign me up all day long. I just keep going back to this number. I don't care what anybody tells me, this is the number I keep going. If somebody told me that's closer to $1.5 million, we can have a discussion. But to come tell me it's something different is just, I think, reckless. And for us to continue to think that we're going to hatch our wagon, let alone the issues you brought up. And it goes back, and I know Melissa's got another slide here, it seems like the #1 criteria of rating a fire department's proximity. I'd say that's in the top 5, maybe the top 3, and it's important. But #1's financeability, I would agree, I think, and #2 is training, and #3 would be proximity. Now, if you have one that's 40 miles away, that's a whole different animal. But, to give you an idea, that the Deer Park Silverton Fire Department to Ridgewood specifically is, I think it was published here in the letter that got sent out to Ridgewood, about 2.3 miles away, which is certainly reasonable. And they think sometimes politicians do as they're asked, but don't really act that way. My fire department is 2.6 miles from my house.
Sure.
So,
What's the difference in runtime, though? So proximity by miles versus runtime are different, because if you have a low-staffed fire department, your time to action and runtime is going to be very different between Deer Park, Silverton, 2.6 miles, and Gulf Manor, 2.4 miles, who is down staffing.
well, I can only base that criteria based on, and give me a second, because there's so many ways to
I'm
look at
assuming
it.
there's someone who is breaking this
Yeah.
down for talk. That's fine. I don't need exact numbers, as long as there is someone who is actively looking at
Well,
this data.
put aside anybody
Yeah.
who's looking at it, and be
Fire
ready.
chiefs are all-
This is the Hamilton County Communication Center, which handles all the 911 calls, that takes all of that.
Okay.
Again, it's limited, so I want to be careful what I say, but this is the facts, which is historically, Golf Manor's response times to Ridgewood in 2021 is 5.5 minutes. A Golf Manor response time to the rest of the Ridge Fire District, based on the Hamilton County Communication Center, is 8.04 minutes. So it's closest to Ridgewood, but of all the district, it's 8.04 minutes. Deer Park Silverton's response time to the entire district is 6 minutes and 40 seconds. So it's 6 minutes and 40 to the entire district, all the runs. And Deer Park Silverton to Ridgewood, based on their history, it's not deep, but this is it, is 5.54 minutes. So if you take the data from the Hamilton County Communication Center, Golf Manor's response time to Ridgewood is 5.5 minutes. Deer Park Silverton's time to Ridgewood is only 4 seconds less. Now, you'd say, how does it make any sense? It's further away, it's a mile further away. There's a lot of factors that go into it. I'll leave you all to go jump to your own conclusions, and the data is limited. But based on what is come out historically, that's all I can rely on. So I don't know if that answers your question, but these are the facts. And I'm not trying to belittle anybody. I just have to go stick with the facts. Go ahead.
Okay, so the response time, that was one of my questions. And, I favor Golf Manor because it's close and I'm comfortable with them. So as, I have a different opinion about that. But, so have we exhausted all, in our partnership with Golf Manor, because they're our neighbors? Have we explored all the partners? You mentioned a couple, right? And, I know Golf Manor, Roger, you were exploring different partnerships. Who else have we tried? Have we exhausted all those possibilities?
Yeah, you go.
Can I just say here, we can decide how we want this to go, but we are
Limited on time.
out of time.
But that's a good question. I do want to answer that question.
We're out of time. What we want to share, though, before it gets away from us, is that the decision, each member will make a decision about their status within the district and other partners. No decisions will be made except in a public meeting. So the discussions are in confidential mediation. But once all the parties agree to recommended pathways forward to sustainable fire services for all,
Right.
we all will then come to our communities like we do monthly, bi-weekly, and host public meetings like this one this evening, like we do in our trustee meetings, and lay out everything in detail in our own facility where we're not limited on time and we can hang out for 3, 4, 5 hours, or how long anyone wants to. We will have fact sheets drawn up. We will make it user-friendly, and we will make sure that every question is answered and everyone is satisfied that we've done the work and we've given you the information. But the mediation limits that, but the next step is Golf Manor will make a decision about their next step. We will then, and Fairfax will make a decision based on what their decision is, Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, and then we will come to our respective communities in public meetings and have a full discussion and listen to all who are interested. And so that will happen hopefully this fall. This fall, is that
But the question was asked, have you guys done other possibilities of partnership?
I think it's just fair to say that I've been involved in it since the first phone call, a year ago, January, and we've worked very hard. It's been exhausting looking at all the opportunities and everything we've looked at. We've looked at everything we can. Some people can't serve us. There's all kinds of factors that he even mentioned, and we worked really hard. And remember, it took a 2-year process for us to even join the district. We had a study done, and it's not going to happen. To expect it to happen quickly out of it isn't going to happen either. It's a very complicated process. So.
And it's not unique to us or to Golf Manor. We're dealing with the same thing on the other side of the district. It's tough.
So Golf Manor drops us December 31st of this year. Can that be extended until we get a solution here? Do we have to rush there, or is there enough time not to rush?
I'll feel this. We will not allow Ridgewood to not have quality safety services. We will make sure they have quality safety. Golf Manor will do the same, and there is a plan in place to do that. even if it ends up that being that we would contract with others, that there would be a temporary basis. So all day long, undeniably, unquestionably, we're all reacting to real-time information, but no matter what, if we have to go subsidize that station, if I have to go fight fires myself, we will make sure, not that I can, but you get my point. We will, John Cervisi put on his cape and suit, he can do it, he does everything else. So we will make sure that it is accommodated, Lydia, but a fair question.
That's a great question.
It's important too that we're not dropping anybody. We have got to serve our residents. We can't make that decision until everything is right. It's not about us dropping anybody. So.
And real quick, we do have to move on, but I want to.
I just have one thing, I just
You
wanted
did
to
a great
compliment the work you were talking prior about additional revenue streams. I think that's just fantastic. That's good work. So it's good to hear that.
Okay, with that, and we move on to a really cool thing, and this is really exciting, unheard of, little brainchild, again, between all of us trustees, this board, we got Melissa with her economic development background. How do we continue to take some of these fun things we're doing, new revenue sources, and give back to the community with the eye of community spirit, people wanting to keep their houses, people getting excited. It's one thing to just do roads, which would be like redoing your roof, or redoing your gutters, not exciting. You know, how do you go repaint the house? So in this case, these neighborhood economic development grants are a way that we take some of the money we're generating through your support and give it back to the community. So with that, I'm going to hand it back off to Brian to talk about that.
This is another one. Susan Hughes would normally be up here talking about this, but she's not here, so I'm going to step in. But this is a fun one. Taking $500,000 from all the revenue we talked about earlier and dividing it up among all our communities within the township. Starting October 1st, you will have a chance to vote. Okay? You will vote for one of two things, either street trees or designer street signs. So, you know, I love Ridgewood. It's a very unique neighborhood. It feels like a gated community without the gates. So you can make it look more like that. You all will decide. So you can go out and politic and try to convince your neighbors to vote one way. And so this is a really good use of funds, in my opinion. And so we're balancing cutting taxes on one end with trying to provide something kind of cool and unique to the township. To have each neighborhood, I mean, my neighborhood might choose something different than your neighborhood, and David's neighborhood will likely choose something different, right? So bring some character to your neighborhood and try to make it look unique. Should improve home values, have a little pride in Ridgewood. So that's all I think I wanted to say. You might want to add something.
So because it's public money, we must do public improvements. So we have to do improvements that are in the public right of way. This gets back to the legality of it. And so we have a partner in the Hamilton County Development Corporation that does programs with communities all over the county. And we did national research about how we can invest in neighborhoods and had a list, a page long, of different beautification projects. The trustees said, we're already investing millions and millions of dollars in roads, and we actually have a mechanism now that we've put into place where we can do more roads faster. So that program is going to move into high gear, overdrive. The trustees wanted to take this first year money from the medical marijuana and do something that touched every household in the community. We could have, like they said, we could have done this, we could have done that, we could have bought that, but how do we let each one of you cut a piece of this new funding revenue for that first year, and then we can look at other needs that can be addressed. And so the street trees, we have a lot of street trees in Ridgewood, but we've actually been told that there are some that are overly mature, they need to come down, they need to be replaced. And then also, so that's an option, and we have all of the details online. It's also in the newsletter, and you're going to be receiving a postcard next week that'll tip you off about when to vote. It'll be your ticket to vote, and when you go online or you call to vote, we have a lot more information about the options. So if you choose street trees, we're going to hire an arborist who will work with the community through the Ridgewood Civic Association, through a series of meetings that will assess every single property, talk to the owner, determine, do you want the street tree that's there to stay? Is it in healthy condition? Is it overgrown? Is it past its life expectancy, or is there not one there, or is it split, or whatever? And then collectively you'll come up with a decision about street tree installation in your neighborhood. If instead you choose what we call designer architectural street signs, a lot of people say, well, what's that? That doesn't sound very exciting. Interestingly, homeowner association neighborhoods are very big into architectural street signs, and they've been shown to really improve the value of the neighborhood. Fluted poles, frames on the signs, finials at the top, they're very, very fancy. So that is something, we'll have examples of that. That is something, and then, so all of your streets, name signs, all of your stop signs will all be changed. Those are inordinately expensive. The third option that we cannot offer to other neighborhoods because they don't have it, but we can offer it to Ridgewood exclusively, and actually the Ridgewood Civic Association brought this to our attention. We were talking to them about this grant, is if you want to take your gas light program and expand it. Oh, yay! Did that get more than John Savizzi earlier? Was that? Oh, that's the second of John, sorry. I'll be in trouble tomorrow. So what we've heard is, and so John has been really helpful on this piece as well. So just to kind of wrap this up, I think all but one of the gas lights have one lamp on them, and there was a repair that we had to do. John led it, where we were able to source a two-headed lamp. And so the feedback we've been getting is that, oh, we like the two-headed, and not only do we like the two-headed, but we would like more. And then some of the ones that are there need a little maintenance, a little touch-up. And so went to the trustees, got an okay to kind of do this special third option for Ridgewood. So when you go in to vote, or you call in to vote, you're going to be by address, and for your neighborhood exclusively, you will have a third option. And so whatever the majority vote is in the neighborhood, that's the project that we're going to pick, and then we will work with you on the delivery of that.
It's all positive and all meant.
$90,000, so the whole, sorry.
No, you go.
$500,000, you guys are getting nearly a fifth of it. And we did it based on households. We counted every single household. And so.
If the tree option gets voted down, do we still have that? I mean, isn't that part of what we get being in Ridgewood anyway? Is it replanting street trees?
The trees
are
awesome. We need extra help. Are you from hire? That's fantastic. I can't imagine that anyone would say that. That's fantastic. Yes, we have a regular street tree program, and we follow. There are certified arborist guidelines, and it's things like if the tree is 40% dead, you can take it out, or you can limb it up, or those types of things. Yes, but this would be a neighborhood-wide, all at once opportunity. And if you choose something instead, yes, on our regular rotation of street trees per our regular policy based on that budget, we will continue to do those things.
So I'm all for improving what Ridgewood looks like, but I'm more concerned about the road from Montgomery down to Highland. I mean, all I've seen in the past couple of years is patch, and it really needs to be resurfaced really badly. Is that in our district, or is that somebody else's district?
So, are you talking about on Montgomery?
On Ridge.
On Ridge,
Okay.
Ridge Road from Montgomery to Highland.
So John and I just completed, it's in draft form, we haven't even brought it to a work session of the trustees yet, but if you don't tell them, we'll share some information with you tonight. We just completed a nearly year-long process with an engineering consultancy for a new 10-year road plan. John, I'm going to just tee it up if you want to say anything else. And we identified all roads in the township, poor condition, fair condition, and good condition. And then, so in poor condition roads that need to be completely reconstructed, including drainage, curb, sidewalks, fair, and great condition. We also, through an engineering consultant, identified roads that just need to be resurfaced or sealed, crack sealed. And so we later this fall, we hope, plan to bring that to a trustee work session, which is a public meeting at the theme of tonight, open for discussion by all the community. And we asked the engineer to put it on very simple spreadsheets and color coded it red, yellow, green. And great news is the majority of the roads, thanks to what John has been doing, my predecessor did with road grants, leveraging millions and millions of dollars of road grants. Our road levy generates 650-ish, I have to go back and look, a year. We can't do a road with that. So we take that and we leverage it for grants. And we have in the last, I think, 12, 15 years pulled down close to $8 million in grants. And so we'll look at that. I don't remember off the top of my head. I don't remember.
The road he's talking about, between Ridge and the railroad tracks, right, or Montgomery and the railroad tracks, that's City of Cincinnati. Sorry.
But it gave me a great chance to kind of launch
And then
it.
as soon as you cross the railroad tracks,
It's a good road.
yeah, that goes into Hamilton County. Ridge is in Columbia Township, but it is a Hamilton County maintained road. So Hamilton County will maintain that. Although Hamilton County had nothing to do with the railroad tracks. That is terrible. I've made more phone calls than a couple about that.
You won't put speed bumps in our neighborhood, but you put one in the railroad tracks, right across the railroad tracks.
You fly.
Yeah.
We do call, John does this, because we've received a number of calls. Most of our roads are fully within the neighborhoods with some exceptions. And all the through roads are county or state. And we get a number of calls, when are you gonna fix this road? And we're like, that's the county or that's ODOT. But we don't just go, thanks anyway, click. We then, John calls
Either ODOT or Hamilton
County
County
Engineer's Office.
to
Where are
report.
you on repair? Where are you on your capital replacement program? All of that. And by being cranky, not that you're cranky, squeaky is what I meant, not cranky.
There you go.
Freudian slip. They then, when they're doing their capital improvement process, remember, they know the condition of their roads, and they also have heard from us. This isn't the condition we would have it in. Could you consider that? So the county is really county engineers trying to step up its grants as well.
Quickly, I know we're on the clock, we're past the time, but I got a letter today, and some of the others might have, that IGS is discontinuing its services, and this is from Duke Energy, saying that we have until September the 27th when our electricity source is discontinued. Can you talk a bit about the new aggregate rate and
Dynegy? We have a new provider. I haven't seen that, but we have IGS Constellation was not the winning bid for electric. Dynegy, I want to say Dynasty, that dates me to the 80s, but Dynegy was the winning bid. And so Duke is our aggregate electric and gas is the generation. Duke is the transmission. So our aggregation is fixed at the lowest bid on the national energy market at the date that we bid it, with about 6 other communities, including Amberley and others that we mentioned this evening. Duke, however, because they are the transmission provider, they have so that's fixed. Your generation rate is fixed through our aggregation program. Duke, as the transmission changes its rates, it has a variable rate, and Duke actually is going back to PUCO to ask for a rate hike on transmission. So that piece of it we don't control. But yet IGS did not win the electric renewal.
so this letter recommends that we go to the Duke website and find another supplier. We don't have to do that, right? Because
No,
you've
that
done
is an energy company. That is Duke doing what Duke does, as all the other energy companies that contact you, knock on your door, send you letters, call you and say, this is your energy company calling to apologize. They're trying to get your business. They're trying to take you out of the aggregate, which you're welcome to do. You'll get a discounted rate for 6 months maybe, and then they will jack you up.
Okay. Well, guys,
Oh, I'm sorry, one last thing.
Okay.
I forgot. Neighborhood Economic Development Grant Program that we just talked about. The street trees, the gas lights, the decorative street signs. This, you'll receive a postcard next week. This is Ned. So look for this. This gentleman's handsome mug, Ned, Neighborhood Economic Development. And so look for that card, and it'll be your ticket to vote. And call us if you have any questions. But a handsome addition to the township staff.
Okay, well, if we need to take deeper dives, we do podcasts, we do all kinds of new things that we're doing, we're trying, and we want to hear from you guys and communicate. If there's a question you have, reach out to Lauren, any of these guys. But real quick, between Lauren, Kim, John, Brian, Melissa, myself, and then Elliot and Rob, father and son on the
Yes,
cameras.
yeah.
So all these guys help bring us all to life. So let's give it up for them. The best way we can. And more importantly, thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you've got any questions, reach out to us. Peace. Thanks for coming.